like that one. I quite like it.
It's my favourite.
Yeah.
It's catchy. Of all of the ones that you've done, I like that one the most.
Why, thank you.
Although I will confess one thing on the lyrics. You know how you get song lyrics wrong
Yeah.
when you hear the song?
Yeah.
It took me probably about 3 or 4 shows to realize that she was saying mysteries, not Mr. East. I kept thinking, who the hell is this Mr. East guy? I must ask John.
Yeah, it's AI. I mean, it's pretty good AI, but it does get things wrong occasionally, you know.
Well, it's a help because it's one of the things that I use and like about AI for work and just personal life is that it can save you a huge amount of time. And if you're not necessarily a musician and you don't have access to a vocalist and a studio, and you want to create a little piece of original music that's not going to get you arse nailed to the wall by YouTube, then I think AI is a great solution for it.
Yeah, exactly. So let's we've got a good showing this evening. Britmate, Dreadeye, that'll be Julianne. I don't want to think. Ed the Techie, yeah, I know who that is. Nectaridas, Sharini, Rabbit Leader 230. That's a new one. Rabbit Leader 230. I like that. It sounds quite RAF-ish. Who else we got? Britmate, Matt T. That's a new one as well. Good evening, Matt T. Ray.
Good evening, guys.
Oh, Ray says we're early. Well, better that than late. Mark Andrew Chapman. Good evening. Yeah, there we go. Has Ed been to the Barbers? Yeah, if you'd been on last week, Ed would have been to the Barbers, I think. Good grief, Shalini. Yep. You must keep up. Keep up, girl. Stop swanning off to the continent.
Yeah, Shalini, stop going on your jollies. It's bloody outrageous. Holidays.
Yeah, it wasn't a holiday. It was a work trip.
They're worse.
I know, all expenses paid. Work trip. Yeah.
Oh, as long as you get flown business class and they put you up in a 5-star hotel, it's not too bad.
If you're only going to Germany, you don't really need business class. Let's be fair. Do you?
Yeah, you bloody do. If you're going on business, you need business class because you get the lounge and you get the lounge from the riffraff and
riffraff. Yes. my best ever was we went upper class on Virgin to New York.
Oh, I bet that was nice.
Fucking fantastic, mate.
I've only done first class once.
I tell you, I had that many air miles because I was working, and I had that many air miles on Virgin, right? That we get picked up from London in a chauffeur-driven car and taken out to Heathrow, and you go into a private check-in. You don't go through any of the terminal. You go straight you drive into a private check-in. They come out to the car, take your bags, escort you through, go through private security, right? And then you're straight into the lounge. You don't see any of the riffraff. It's fucking tremendous.
I know, that's the life. Nice for some.
You must try it once.
I've flown first class once many years ago.
That's good.
Which was a brand new DC-10 that Zambia Airways had that had sleeper seats. And
a DC-10? Bloody hell, we're going back in time now, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
We're talking about 1983.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah, that's cool. But
yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, it would be nice, but hey, if you've got that kind of money, then you're probably flying private anyway.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, I paid for it with air miles, right? But you've still got to pay the tax, right? So for 3 of us, the tax was 1,500 quid. That was the tax. But I used to have money, mate. I mean, what the hell you meant to do? I mean, you know, you're an IT professional. You know how much money you can be pulling in. You know, I mean, I was fucking bringing in 6 figures a year, no problem. But it's just the arse has been ripped out of from me. And it came at exactly the wrong time because age becomes a factor when if you're already in a contract and just moving up and keep going, it was never a problem, but age does become a factor, you know.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I've been working for the same people for
Yeah.
donkeys. It's just, but yeah, right. So on to the episode.
Yes, yes. On to the episode. So tell me, Ed. I mean, this is probably going to be pretty much driven by you. This one, to be fair, because you're right into this and you know all about it. But I'll hopefully add some input at some point. But yeah,
Well, I'm hoping I don't want it to be just a massive
no.
monologue by me. And I'm
Oh,
hoping for
perish the thought.
your your usual doses of sanity. But yeah, it's something that I don't necessarily think. I'm not sure if you can describe it as a rabbit hole. If it's a rabbit hole, then it's a galactic-sized rabbit hole.
Right.
But
Okay.
I've
Well,
probably been.
so we're going to talk. We're going to talk about cataclysm cycles in the solar system. Are we?
Well,
Or
Earth
just
specifically, but
pardon me.
the effects are essentially going to happen all the way through the solar system, but it's actually part of something that happens in the galaxy. This is not.
Oh, it's a galaxy,
Um,
right? Okay, galaxy
yeah,
wide. Wow.
it's yes, absolutely, and it has to do with the Earth's magnetic field,
Yeah.
um, and essentially what amounts to a 12,000 year catastrophe cycle, where every 12,000 years, it's actually 6,000. There's a big cycle that's every 12,000 and a smaller cycle that's every 6,000.
Okay.
Um,
So
and they
what would the last one have been then?
6,000 years ago, what we call the Noah flood event.
6,000. What was 6,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
And then 12,000 years is Göbekli Tepe, roughly. I mean, obviously, we're not talking exact numbers, but it's roughly 6,000 years and roughly 12,000 years. And we can trace these changes going back about 60,000 years.
Okay.
And it involves a number of different things. There's changes on the planet itself, what's currently being attributed to CO2 and emissions and all of that nonsense, cow farts and things like that, is actually related to changes that are happening on the sun.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
and also on the Earth. The science. First of all, could you pop the slides up?
Mhm.
Let's start with those, because before we go any further, most of what I know about this comes from a chap called Ben Davidson. And if you go to slide 1, John, that's a little bit of attribution, because if you really, if what we talk about this evening interests you and you want to know more about it, then the place to go is Sun Weatherman on Twitter and Suspicious Observers on YouTube. And he has a vast amount of content. He's got playlists and movies.
Mhm.
He's actually working on a high production film
Yeah.
with models and animations and stuff that he had started a Kickstarter for it, and he wanted, I think he was aiming for $50,000, and he ended up with over 100,000.
That's good.
And it was going up. I mean, I wish I could run a Kickstarter like that for something, because it was going up by tens of thousands of dollars
Well,
every week.
maybe we should start a Kickstarter for the rabbit hole.
Well, yeah, but doing a film about the end of the world.
Yeah, but we don't need to do a film about the end of the world. We could do a film about something else.
It's a fair point.
We could. I mean, if people want to pay us, I'm more than happy to travel around the UK and go to actual sites where like Overton Bridge and stuff like that. You know, would you?
That'd be fun.
Yeah,
It would be more complicated for me because of work.
yeah, but you can work anywhere. Don't give me that shite. You're one of these remote wallers. You could be sitting in the van with Starlink on the roof going, couldn't you?
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah. You could.
Right. So with that out of the way, next slide is it essentially, what it's in a nutshell, what's happening is that the Earth's magnetic field is shifting. The north and the south magnetic poles are moving.
Mm-hmm.
They've been this started roughly about 1850-ish. And in 1859, we had the Carrington event, which was an X30 to X40 solar flare. And we didn't have a very electrical society at the time, but it
Right.
fried telegraph wires. There was telegraph operators who were using their devices at the time that were injured because of the electrical feedback. Now, if something like that happened today, it would pretty much mean the end of civilization. We would have electrical transformers go down, and if the electrical grid goes down, then society follows a few days later, pretty much.
Yeah.
And we know it's happening because I don't know who remembers the Aurora event that we had in April this year, where there was loads of people. It was flooding Twitter
Yeah.
with all of these bright pink auroras.
Yeah.
Now, those were caused by an X3 flare from the sun, CME.
Yep.
And without going into, because this is not, apart from anything else, I don't have a deep understanding of the science. I'm trying to do a layman's understanding of things in such a way as to not overload people with too much actual science. But essentially what happens is that the energy from the sun, if you pop to the next slide, I think it's that one. Yeah. So this is called the Enlil spiral, and it's a monitoring device. It essentially refers to the spiral appearance of the solar wind due to the sun's roughly 27-day rotation. During fair weather conditions, the solar wind still exhibits significant variations in density and speed originating from the solar surface. So essentially what that is capturing solar wind, but the Enlil spiral is very, very useful for capturing CMEs. And what you see blasting out to the right of that image is a CME that happened about 3 or 4 days ago. You can see the time period at the top. The scale, the fact that it's red, if you look at the line below that round circular spiral, that's the scale. So blue is essentially harmless background space. Red is the flare that just hit us. And so this is stuff that can be measured. This is not
Is the yellow dot Earth?
If you look up at the top, you've got
Oh
the
no,
key
that's
to all of the planets.
Oh, Earth is the yellow round dot.
Hmm.
Yeah, the square dot is obviously the diamond shaped dot is obviously a satellite. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's they have a few of the different monitoring satellites, like Soho. I think is Soho on there.
We've got Bepi, Lucy, Osiris, Apex, Park ISP, Solo, or Sol IO, Stereo A. Is that anything to do with Stereo Mike from the Brand 3000? Drinking in LA?
We have various satellites that monitor the sun. If people are interested, go to spaceweathernews.com and you'll see.
Don't get hypnotized, says Ogham. He's quite right.
The visuals are all explained.
Don't get hypnotized here, people. Look away from the swirl. Look away.
So I captured this image a few days ago. Now,
did you fly up there on the Dragon?
No. I wish I had a dragon. That would be so much fun. I could just do a vendetta all over Westminster, man. How cool would that be?
Yeah.
Right. So that red
hold on a minute. Hold on. Wait a second. When did this CME hit us?
That was well, this is the thing, is that this is today's. I captured the Enlil spiral yesterday or the day before.
Okay.
And if you look at the Enlil spiral for today, it doesn't show the same thing because obviously the flare has moved, but it takes roughly 2 or 3 days for a flare to hit Earth.
Yeah.
Which is good because it means that we've basically got 3 days warning for the sun to end civilization, which if you're prepared and you have your ducks in a row, that is a sign for you to essentially bug out. Well, if you don't, then
preparation I've done is store loads of food on
You got
my
water.
body.
Well, it's the rule of three. You can survive for 3 minutes without air, for 3 days without water, and for 3 weeks without food.
Yeah, I reckon I could go for 3 years, mate. I really do.
But anyway, the red splat that we saw on that endless spiral
Yeah.
is what's manifesting today
Okay.
as auroras, because this is the one of the things you'll find on spaceweathernews.com is auroras for the North and South Pole, because the energy from the
Right.
CME
Okay.
gets directed down through the poles.
Yeah.
Okay, so you with me so far?
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. What I don't understand is why anyone would think this is a good time to go for a spacewalk.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they're on the other side of the planet.
And
Well, no.
they're on the dark side of the planet, but according to this image you've captured here, the worst effect is on the dark side of the planet. So it seems to me that, well, why would this even be a good time to go up into space? Because, you know, you really want a good, what? I don't know, a good few tons of water between you and the CME, or a magnetic field, which you have neither of when you're sitting in a tin can floating above this blue pearl that we call Earth.
I mean, I think supposedly the Dragon capsule is just over 1,000 kilometers.
1,400.
1,400 in space.
Mm-hmm. So is it inside the influence of the magnetic field?
I think they will still have some protection. Yeah, I mean, there's no. I don't think they've hit Van Allen belt territory.
Well, no, they haven't. They haven't hit Van Allen belt territory because no one has, have they yet? But Matt T has a point. Did they really go into space? But that's maybe a different rabbit hole altogether, Matt.
I mean, the video that John sent me earlier of supposedly a Dragon astronaut sticking their head out of the capsule looked like it didn't even look like good AI. I mean,
it looked shit, didn't it?
And we've got high definition video cameras, like low light video cameras, and that's the best they can do. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, so moving on, the next slide is just a visual representation of what the Earth's magnetic field looks like under normal conditions. And essentially what happens, the reason we get auroras is because the energy from the sun gets directed into the North and South Pole.
Yeah.
And that gets dissipated. And essentially that solar radiation is actually really dangerous, but it happens to hit us where there isn't that much human life on the poles.
Yeah.
So it doesn't impact us. But this is the field when they're
what about the penguins?
Well, poor little penguins.
And the polar bears?
Well, they survived there for a very long time, so maybe maybe the fur protects them or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
But what's happening at the moment, and this is not a rabbit hole, this is not a conspiracy theory, this is acknowledged by science, is that the Earth's magnetic field is weakening. And scientists like Ben Davidson say that it's because we're due for a geomagnetic reversal. Now, if you pop onto the next slide, we can see.
Yeah.
And geomagnetic reversal is where the north and south magnetic poles flip. And obviously, we all know that we've got geographic north poles, and we've got geographic poles, and we have magnetic poles, and they're not quite in the same place.
So,
yeah, and they're moving.
Yeah, and so basically, what we've got is the Earth has morning bedhead.
Yeah, essentially, what happens during a reversal is that the field goes completely crazy, and so instead of having this nice constant, it's like if people are into science fiction, it's like the shields on the Starship Enterprise going completely nuts and letting bits in some places. Instead of having a nice strong field all the way around your ship, you've essentially got some Ferengi mucking around with controls or something like that, and it's all kind of a bit nuts. I don't know. I don't know why I thought of Ferengi, but it was the first thing that came to mind.
People are going to be people who don't watch Star Trek are going, "What the fuck's a Ferengi?"
Go and watch some
It's
Star
okay,
Trek.
people. It's a unit of measurement. Don't worry.
Yeah, unit of measurement. Anyway, so
3 Ferengis to the pound. Carry on.
Anyway, no, it's good. We've got to make light of it.
Yeah.
Light of this because we don't. I don't want to start boring people with too much science, but we have to go through a bit of the science to figure out what's going on. And so yeah, the Earth's magnetic field is going crazy.
Yeah.
And there's a possibility that the poles are going to shift. But it's all connected to something more serious, which is
hold on. More serious.
Yes.
More serious, you see.
Yes. Right. If we just, but we'll come to that in a minute. If you just pop on to the next slide.
Drink. This is like last night. I had Latimer Mulder, and we did the whole thing on that science. And now tonight you're telling me that it's not going to make any difference anyway because of. Right. Carry on. Sorry. Carry on.
So this just relates to the Carrington field I was talking about earlier on, named after Richard Carrington. And essentially what happened is that we've got shocking technicians setting papers on fire. So this is not a small thing. And this is 1859. Now, it's the 1850s where our field starts going down.
Yeah.
The Earth was hit by I think it's an X40 solar flare. The one that caused those auroras was an X3. Now, 20 years ago, that X3 flare would not have caused, because we've had X3 flares. This is where it gets interesting and kind of scary, because we've got records of solar flares. It's not. I mean, data from 1859 is a bit sketchy. Data from 20 or 30 years ago, much less sketchy. And we've had X3 flares before, and they didn't cause solar storms in the same way that one in April did. Those auroras, if our magnetic field was at full strength, those auroras wouldn't have happened. Nobody would have seen anything.
Yeah.
So going on to the next slide, as I said before, Davidson reckons this has been going on for 60,000 years.
Yeah.
So, and the ones in bold are the big cycles. The ones in not bold are the smaller cycles. And we know that the Earth's field flips because there are various ways that it can be detected. Just got to pull my notes up really quickly. So we've got...
You can tell in rock.
Yeah, it's when volcanic rocks cool, magnetic minerals within them align the Earth's magnetic field at that time. By studying the magnetization of ancient rocks, we can reconstruct the position of the magnetic poles in the past.
Yeah.
And there's also sedimentary records, which is as magnetic particles settle, they align with the prevailing magnetic field. So there are ways that we can tell where the magnetic north and south poles have been through history. So this is hard science. And I mean, these are named events. You can go and look them up. The NOAA event, the big ones, Gothenburg, Lake Mungo, Mono Lake, and Le Champ, those are the ones that are frequently talked about. The smaller ones is where this is where my understanding breaks down a little bit, because I'm not entirely sure about the exact difference between the bigger ones and the smaller ones. I think it's less severe. I don't think we get the full rotation. But essentially what's ultimately going to happen, theoretically, is something... I don't know how many people have seen the movie 2012, because it's very much like that, apart from potentially the ships.
You ever read any Greg Bear?
No.
Yeah, he describes it. He describes the Earth falling apart, actually, in one of his books.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite interesting. But
So,
not survivable.
well, because there's a bunch of different things going on here. We've got a solar flare that could take out civilization in about 3 days, and that theoretically, we're in a solar maximum at the moment, which is where the sun is really active. And we've had a lot of solar flares.
We could start naming these things using our own nomenclature, if you will. So we could call that a Dark Angel event, couldn't we? You remember Dark Angel?
Event? No.
So Dark Angel was Jessica Alba, who was a superhuman that had escaped from a institution where they were trying to make her into a super soldier. And she lived in this kind of post-apocalyptic version of Seattle, I think. I think it was Seattle. It's much like it is now, But it had been hit by an EMP and there was no real tech left. That was a problem. So it was harmless fun, worth looking up if you ever get bored, And there's always the advantage that Jessica Alba was in it.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
So,
right, to get back on track. So what we're saying
that could be our Dark Angel event.
Mm-hmm. There's also, if you go on to the next slide, I don't know how many people know about it, but there's the Atlantic anomaly, which is where the
South Atlantic anomaly, I think you'll find it's called.
Yes, South Atlantic anomaly, which is where the Earth's magnetic field is weaker. Because as you saw from the previous image that I showed a little while ago, the field it isn't this. It's not like a spaceship, a shield out of a Star Trek spaceship. It's not this continuous kind of bubble. It has bits where parts where it's thicker and parts where it's thinner. And that all relates to the shape of the Earth's core, because the field is generated by the spinning metal center of the planet. But that's not actually a uniform bubble. If you go to slide 17, sorry to jump around.
Slide 17. Now you're making me jump through hoops. That's not what I'm here for, mate. Like fucking hell, hold on. Slide 17. That's
just
quite far
shut
down.
Up and do your
quite
job,
far
geez.
Down the list, right?
So that's a representation of what the center of the planet looks like. So as you can see, there's bits where it bulges out, and bits where it's just part of the sphere. Now, all of those bulges impact the strength and shape of the magnetic field. And if you take us to the next slide, sorry, I didn't get.
Would you say the next slide? Wait, do you mean go forward or go back to 12?
No, go forward. Just go forward one.
Okay.
Now, there is one of the big rabbit holes in all of this.
Hold on, what
that is.
Oh, wait, I thought it jumped forward more. What?
It's quite quick, but that's basically showing you.
It's
what we know.
It's a video. You had me confused. I thought the thing was jumping from slide to slide.
No,
you and your newfangled techniques of putting video in slides. That just took me completely by surprise. This is like magic, Any sufficiently advanced technology to a layman is just magic, is it not? You have surprised me with actual magic. You're a necromancer.
Well, it turns out that Google Slides like GIFs effectively. But these two images are showing you some representations of what we know about where the poles are. Now, one of the telltale signs of a rabbit hole is that a few years ago, they stopped publishing both data about the South Atlantic anomaly, and also they stopped publishing data about the position of the poles. Now, I don't know why, because that's information that's very useful. But, okay, now we need to jump back again to slide 11.
That slide was annoying me. Especially the Godzilla thing. That just muddies the waters.
So all of this is happening because of changes in the galaxy, and the galaxy. And this is theoretical. There's a lot of scientists who wouldn't agree with this. But Davidson posits that the galaxy has a current sheath that has this undulating pattern that has poles, effectively.
Is this like electric universe stuff?
Well, yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
Yes.
See that thing at the bottom?
And
you know,
that's
I know
the
it's
heliospheric current sheet.
yeah.
There's two. The
Right.
heliospheric one is the solar system.
It looks like that fucking ancient Egyptian artifact that resembles a patio stand.
Yeah, it does a bit, but that's essentially where it's a surface within the solar system where the polarity of the sun's magnetic field changes from north to south. It's a sprawling structure about 10,000 kilometers thick and billions of kilometers wide, driven by the sun's rotation. Small electrical current flows within this sheet, causing it to undulate like a flag in the wind. The galactic current sheet refers to a hypothetical structure within the Milky Way galaxy thought to be a vast undulating surface where the magnetic field polarity changes from north to south. Now, the change that we've got happening in our solar system with the sun is because we pass through the undulating bits of the galactic current sheet. And that essentially, the galactic current sheet impacts the heliospheric current sheet, which impacts the planetary magnetic field because it's all polarity. Okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, where it starts to get scary is the solar micronova, which is essentially what's going to happen.
I mean, you can put as many words in front of nova as you like, but even if it's a teeny one, it doesn't sound good.
No, it doesn't. So the first thing we have to worry about is a CME from the sun. The next thing we have to worry about is an ice age because of, we're going to jump around again.
Yeah.
But probably not too far. We need to go to slide 21.
Well, yeah, right. I can tell you about this. So, well, I don't know if it's the same theory as you've got, but the problem is, if and it doesn't need to be a lot, if the atmosphere warms up even just a little bit, the Greenland ice sheet will start to melt. It will dump loads of fresh water into the North Atlantic, which will desalinate the Gulf Stream, otherwise known as the Beaufort Gyre, which will stop it sinking, which will then stop the current.
No, it's the Beaufort Gyre that releases. That essentially, if you look on the right of this image, that red line is where the Gulf Stream is, which is the warm current that keeps us all nice and toasty, while the same latitude, a few thousand miles to the west, they're freezing their tits off in winter every year.
Yeah,
because if you trace a map from Scotland round, you should actually be an Eskimo.
Yeah, we're the same location as what's that place in Alaska? Fairbanks, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have the same weather as because of the Gulf Stream. But the Gulf Stream will stop working because of all the fresh water that's been dumped into the North Atlantic.
That's from the Beaufort Gyre.
Yeah, and that stops and it stops it sinking and it turns the current off.
Well, it's all about salinity.
Exactly. That's what I just said. I said that.
Right, yeah, sorry. So that could make us very cold. And ice ages are actually associated with these 12,000-year shifts as well.
And actually, just as a point of order, to put us into an ice age would only require something around something around 1.5 degree drop annually. Just a general 1.5 degree drop across the scale would probably be enough to edge us into an ice age. And that's nothing, It sounds like nothing, but it would, because what it does is it stops the ice melting quick enough in the spring it just keeps building, and it builds and builds every year, and next thing you know, Loch Lomond's a glacier, and it's coming to crush your house.
But it's called, the scientists call it a Heinrich event, and
Yeah.
it's the Earth's natural way of dealing with too much warming.
Yeah.
And because the planet's been in balance for a long time before humans kind of got their grubby mitts all over it. But this 12,000 year catastrophe cycle, theoretically, once we get into the solar minimum,
Mm-hmm.
there's an increase of dust coming from the galaxy into interstellar dust. It's a thing. I didn't know it was a thing until I started learning about this stuff, but it
Oh,
is a thing.
it's a thing because the Earth gets bigger and heavier every year from the amount of dust that lands on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a lot, but it does, you know.
But that dust it accretes on the sun as well.
Yeah.
And Davidson, his theory is that this happens during the solar minimum when the sun isn't so active. So during the solar maximum, the thing, which is roughly, I think they're roughly 11 years, these cycles.
Well, we're on a solar maximum right now.
Yeah, we've got about another year of the solar maximum. Yeah. And during the solar maximum, the sun could chuck a massive CME at us and wipe out civilization. Jeez. But once we get into a solar minimum, we then get an accretion of dust onto the surface of the sun. And it's, I have to check.
Does the sun have a surface? I mean, to me, when you look at the sun, you know, you look at it through these satellites and that, it looks like it's a ball of plasma. It doesn't look like it's got a surface.
Well, it kind of does. But the thing is that we don't necessarily understand the sun. Oh, crikey. Hang on a minute. Listen, can you just talk? I just need to go dark for 2 seconds and sort something out.
Can I just talk? Yeah, annoying. Okay. I'll tell you about my episode with the Doctor Who people that I upset. I upset the Doctor Who guy. Well, one of the guys in Doctor Who. Well, I didn't mean to upset him, but I did upset him because I was obviously being funny because, as you know, I try and be funny all the time. And sometimes it kind of works. And in fact, most of the time I think it works. But sometimes it doesn't. So anyway, what happened was somebody posted a tweet last night, and they said if you're in trouble and the people coming to rescue you are, and I don't normally answer these tweets because they always get me in trouble, and this is why. So anyway, you're in trouble, and the people coming to rescue you is the last TV program you watched. Who's coming to rescue you? And I said, right, okay. So I've got Doctor Who in the form of David Tennant, Rose in the form of Billy Piper, and this is where I got into trouble, the black guy who replaced the tin dog, right? Now, I thought I was being witty, and I still think there is a degree of wit in it, but you know, people are sensitive these days. You have to recognise that and completely disregard it. But so what I was pointing out was that, you know, there's a long-standing tradition in Doctor Who of the male assistant or person or companion or traveller of being kind of, you know, marginalised and looked over. And in fact, in this particular episode that I was watching, they were doing that openly and quite mocking it. And that's why I posted it like that. And then this guy replied to me saying, that's a lovely way of putting it. And I thought, well, he's obviously got a beef because he was black, you know? So I said, well, if you'd actually watched the episode, you might realise I was riffing on the comment. And he's going, watch the episode. And then I realised it actually was the guy from Doctor Who. It was Mickey. So he goes, you just called me the black guy and didn't use my name. I'm going, yeah, but that's the whole point of it, because what I was doing was, you know, pointing out the kind of, well, in a humorous way, I thought. And as I said to him, if you had been ginger, it was never about race. If you had been ginger, I would have just said, and the ginger twat, you know? So that was my excuse. And then, I think we've kissed and made up, actually. I think.
Well,
We didn't
I've heard the
kiss.
story.
You've heard the story, yeah.
Yeah, no, and if anyone knows what you're like, they won't take offense to it.
Yeah, but he won't, because he won't know anything about me, you know. Unless he watches the show. If you're watching the show, no, then hey, fair play to me, you mate. Fair play. Come on our show. In fact, I'd love that. I see David Icke was bleating about nobody will interview him. Well, I'm fucking giving up a fucking offering, you know.
I've always had
He just wants to be. He wants to be interviewed by somebody of presence, somebody with a massive following. You know, he doesn't want to be interviewed by a minnow.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I'm not sure if you caught when his daughter Kerry died, because the only one of the Ikes that didn't follow me was on Twitter is David.
Right.
But there was a whole spat between Kerry's other half and the rest of the Ike family.
Okay.
And I'm not going to go into it, because it's obviously private family business. And I mean, they did air it in public, but I'm not going to start repeating that stuff, because we're not doing gossip. But yeah, he was accused of the boyfriend essentially said that David Icke was a narcissist, and that's what his daughter thought. But
well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people are narcissists, and to be fair, I think David Icke is probably a narcissist.
Yeah,
I mean, there's quite a lot about. Sorry.
Well, he's had the massive piss taken out of him for 30 years. So,
well, hold on a minute. Right, hold on a minute, and let's be honest here, right? He kind of put himself in the firing line.
Just a little.
Yeah. You're going to stand up on national TV and declare that you are the fucking son of God. Yeah. And you know, you can backtrack in later years and go, yeah, well, I meant we're all the son of God. Yeah. Yeah, okay. That's not going to wash. You know, so you kind of put yourself out there, David. I hate to say it, mate, but you know, I'm sure you're a lovely guy, and I know you say very good things about me, but you know, you've got to take some of the blame yourself. So what was it? Rabbit Leader 230 has said Ed is a barrel of laughs, isn't he? Are you new to this channel completely, Rabbit Leader? I know. Some people come in and watch, and some people, you know, lurk in the background for ages, and then eventually will come forward. But if you're completely new to the channel, this probably isn't the best episode. You know, because normally Ed's, although it takes a little to get him going and get him animated, but he's normally a bit more fun than this. But then again, normally our subjects are more esoteric, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, we like to cover a range of different things. We've got, I mean, you could even have I think John set up a live stream of all of our past episodes. So if you want a sleep aid,
yeah, there's about 12 hours. Well, in fact, there's about 20 hours of stuff there you can go and watch, and it shouldn't be advertised because I think I turned monetization off. But All In is better for the laughs. Yeah, it is. Yeah, All In's tomorrow night at 9, and I believe my colleague is joining me tomorrow.
And I promise.
He's coming tomorrow. Yep, he's back tomorrow.
And I'm trying to make this fun because, okay, we're
you're doing fine. You're doing fine. You know, I'm only ripping the piss out of you.
No, I know, but I'm conscious of the fact that it's quite it's quite a, I don't know, dark, deep, whatever sort of subject. Well, the end of the world.
The problem is, to talk about it, you need to impart a certain level of knowledge, and you have to assume that most of these Philistines out there knowing fuck all about this, you know, and that's not an offence to you people, because I'm pretty sure, you know, most people don't know much about this. So you've got to give you a little bit of knowledge, and those that do know about it, you've just got to suck it up.
And I only know slightly more about it than the audience.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly from the science, I understand all of the bits of the theory. Don't ask me to explain the deep science to you. Just go to Suspicious Observers and find Ben's playlists, and he'll do that for you. But the solar micronova is essentially where, and these have been detected. If 15 years ago, they were poo-pooing Davidson's theories.
Yeah, I know.
And now mainstream science is actually agreeing with him increasingly frequently, particularly on the subject of micronovas. because there are recurrent novas that we've been able to detect that aren't supernovas. And a micronova is essentially, I don't know, like the sun burps, and there's two things that can cause it.
Yeah.
Number one, and it's all to do with electromagnetism. This is why the sun, this idea that the sun is this nuclear ball of fire at the center of the solar system is not right. It's not. Yes, there is an aspect of that, but
I
it's
think
much more, and it's primarily electromagnetic.
I think it's a node in a circuit.
Wouldn't surprise me.
That's what I mean. I think that's what suns are.
And because I think energetically, if we look talking about electricity, and I mean things like the galactic current sheet, we're not talking about large amounts of electricity, but it's still a charge. So going back to the solar micronova, the theory is that once we get to the next solar minimum, dust is going to start accreting on the surface of the sun until it gets to a point where there's an electromagnetic kick from the center of the galaxy in the form of the current sheath, and that essentially causes the sun to
shrug the dust off.
But
shrug the dust off.
Yeah, and there's evidence. They've found things on the dark side of the moon that can only be explained by solar micronovas. There's isotopes that have been found on Earth, which again can only be explained by this one phenomena. They can only have come from the sun. They've actually been found in layers which connect them to the Younger Dryas, which is if people have seen Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse Netflix documentary, which is actually, I mean, it's really good. It's worth watching.
Yeah.
But he and Randall Carlson attribute the Younger Dryas to the Leonid meteor shower, and Ben Davidson says no, it's not the meteors, it's the solar micronova.
Yeah,
and I'd love to. I would absolutely love to see Joe Rogan get Ben Davidson on. That would be so good. But I mean, he knows about him, and this is not going to happen, which says something.
I think Joe Rogan has a very restricted viewer, guest list for certain reasons.
Well, it's he's allowed to go so far and no further, and it all has to be part of the agenda. It's like his whole UFO thing, interviewing Bob Lazar, and I mean that was a brilliant interview. I absolutely love listening to Bob Lazar, because he's either the best actor I've ever met, or the guy actually saw and did what he says he saw and did. But okay, let's go back to let's go back to the slides. So jumping ahead, hopefully this is the last skip. We're now getting into proper Cataclysm territory, bearing in mind that there might not be that much left of civilization by the time the solar micronova happens anyway.
So
if we go to slide 12, and this is, I first heard about Chan Thomas from Davidson, and he wrote a book called The Adam and Eve Story, which describes the Cataclysm.
Is this kind of Velikovsky type territory, isn't it?
Well, Emmanuel Velikovsky, if you go to the next.
He's next, yeah.
Well, Velikovsky didn't. He didn't talk about the Earth crust displacement, but Velikovsky's ideas were about cataclysms, and projected. He had all sorts of interesting theories about Venus actually being one of Jupiter's moons that broke off and impacted the Earth, or something like that.
So I think Velikovsky had the theory. Did he not have the theory that the Earth was initially inside Saturn's corona because Saturn was a brown dwarf? I think, and that's why we. It explains many of the myths and things, because you wouldn't see the stars in the sky if you were inside the corona of a brown dwarf. But strangely enough, apparently it should be an environment that would be suitable for life. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things about the Earth that don't make sense. The position in the solar system is different to the others. Between all of the other planets, there's a
No,
regular spacing.
no, the one that really doesn't make sense, mate, is Venus.
Well, that's where Velikovsky's ideas come through.
Yeah, because Venus, first of all, rotates the wrong way.
Hmm.
Yeah, so Venus is completely screwed up. It rotates the
And
wrong
we've also
way,
got the
and I
asteroid
think
belt.
is that the one that's got an almost parallel pole or something? But the
Hmm.
pole's at completely the wrong angle. You know, it's not just tilted; it's fucking completely at 90 degrees to where it should be. So I think
Yeah,
Venus is the one that's the big issue because it just shouldn't be there and it shouldn't be rotating in the direction it is because all the other planets rotate the same direction apart from Venus.
and there should actually be a planet where we've currently got an asteroid field, and it looks like someone
Tiamat,
piled in there with a Death Star and blew up Alderaan or something.
Tiamat. That was Tiamat.
It's well, it's entirely possible. I mean, the Sumerians talk about extrasolar planets that have large rotations and
Yeah.
impacts on the Earth and stuff like that. So
Janet's talking
Chant
about.
Thomas's story, again, it's another one. If people are interested in doing more research, look for the Adam and Eve story. You go on to the next slide. This is where we start getting into Hollywood movie time, because the name Charles Hapgood, if you've seen 2012,
I have. Yeah.
you may remember, what's his name's character? JFK assassin, father, son. Oh, crikey. Charlie. The guy that plays Charlie in 2012. Really famous actor.
Sheen.
His father is in prison. He's an
Oh
assassin.
right. No, I don't know. A really famous actor.
Yeah. Oh.
2012. Who was in 2012?
Yeah. Yeah, here's the hippie guy.
Big guy. Oh,
Yeah, the one that was
the guy on top of the mountain
yeah.
that just
Yeah.
stays on top of the mountain and dies.
Hmm. But he mentions Charles Hapgood. Now, Hapgood's an interesting character because he wrote a book that I thought I'd screenshotted, but I don't think I did. Anyway, but he actually wrote a book which destroyed his own science, because he got things he had earlier theories which he changed when he wrote the book,
Oh
and
god.
he actually invalidated his own work. And the theory is that under certain conditions, the outside shell of the planet can become unlocked
Yeah.
from the molten core, and
Yeah.
we have the lithosphere and the asthenosphere, which are the layers in between the crust and the mantle. And if we get a certain amount of energy from the sun, could, in theory, cause the shell to tilt like it
Woody
does in the.
Woody Harrelson says Vaughn. Is that right?
Woody Harrelson, that's the one. Because yeah, no, that's
Thank
it.
you,
Thank
Vaughn.
you, thank you, Vaughan.
Right.
Excellent. Cheers for that. And it's because Charles Harrelson was the assassin father that claimed responsibility, claimed to be one of the assassins that shot JFK. Okay, so if you go to slide 15, this just shows you
Yep.
what I'm talking about. And so we have the outer shell gets unlocked, and then the
Me.
ice. There's so much ice on Greenland that if the crust of the planet wasn't locked to the center of the mantle, just the weight of the ice on Greenland could actually tip the planet 90 degrees. And obviously, when that happens, you have tsunamis, and we have 2012 catastrophic flood type
So
scenario.
so the when you say the weight of the planet, I can only assume it's because of centripetal force, that because of all that weight they are out on the limb and being high up would want to be on the equator, effectively on the axis of spin. Yeah.
And it's balanced by Antarctica as well.
Yeah, so that's why it would want to tip down so as that Antarctica and Greenland were more or less on the equator. which they've probably been before, if we believe that there are dinosaurs and ferns in Antarctica.
It's actually called the Zanbenikoff effect.
Yeah.
If you go to the next slide, and this is where the science starts to get very, very. Where are we? I've got some stuff written out about it. That. Sorry. No. There we go. Right. So the I can't even pronounce it. Zanbenikoff effect, also known as the tennis racket theorem, refers to a phenomena observed regarding rotating bodies in space when an object with three distinct moments of inertia or axes of rotation behave in a counterintuitive way when rotated. Discovered by a Russian cosmonaut while in Earth orbit. He was called Vladimir Zanbenikoff. And he essentially observed it after a wing nut flipped unexpectedly when he was spinning it. And it's that effect which causes the crust to slip. And obviously when that happens, the water and the air on the crust, they don't stop moving. So you end up with massive...
my God. So a Russian cosmonaut is in orbit, right? Okay, and let's just picture this scenario. He's in orbit and he's got nothing to do, right? He's got nothing to do. And he finds a wing nut that's obviously come off something, right? And he's thinking, what will I do with this? And then he just flicks it and it starts spinning, right? Yeah? And then
it starts spinning.
It's spinning, and then it suddenly changes its rotational spin so that it's not spinning around the axis or anything like that. It just seems to be spinning randomly. And he gets a whole effect named after it because he was bored and found a fucking wing nut that shouldn't have been there.
Yep.
That's how we do science, people. That's how we do science.
Well, if you actually look at a lot of scientific discoveries, they happen accidentally.
Of course they do.
They usually happen because someone screwed up.
Yeah, of course they do. And this is the problem when you try and institutionalize science and have big corporations running it. Because if you don't let people screw up, you'll not make any advancements. Will you?
Well, no, and the scientific advancements never come from the center. They always come from the fringe. They always come from the people that everyone else thinks are crazy.
Yeah.
People like Nikola Tesla.
Yeah, Copernicus.
I mean, there's people. Well, we go back far enough. Giordano Bruno was burnt at the stake for even daring to suggest that the Earth wasn't at the center of the solar system or the universe.
Quite rightly so.
So there's the thing is that,
and I tell you, right, brief aside, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but did I tell you about my experience the other day? Right. No. So I was on, as you know, I was on TNT on Monday, right? On the Lambert OPIC show. And then I got a message that evening on LinkedIn, and I don't use LinkedIn anymore. But it's still there and it pops up in my email now and again. I got a message on LinkedIn saying, I saw you on the Limbic OPIC show. I'd like to connect with you. I see from your calendar that you're one of us.
Us? Who the hell is this us?
Well, right, hold on. I'm gonna go to our bigger screen. Oh, you can't really see it. I'll tell you what, I'll go full screen for a second, right? See that thing there, people? That thing there, right? My latitude and longitude calculator, known as the Gleason map. So that was what twigged. He thinks I'm a flat earther.
Right.
Just because I've got a fucking longitude and time calculator on my wall, he thinks I'm a flat earther. By that logic, okay, you, sir, are a Klingon. You would agree, yes?
Yep.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Because I can see the batleth and or should I say batleth, hanging on your wall.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite birthday presents from the guys that I work with, and I've got crikey, I got that's nearly 20 years old, if not a bit more.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
fuck's sake! We better bleep that out in case the old Home Office think, hey, we better go in and visit Ed. He's got an illegal weapon there. Get the anti-terrorism squad on. What?
It's not sharp.
I know. I know that. I know that. But we'll maybe explore this more tomorrow night because there's a couple of things happened.
Well, the thing is that with that, the way it's shaped, because if you notice in Star Trek, the bat'leth is actually the other way around, and the pointy bits go outwards.
Yeah.
With that, as I've discovered to my cost, you're actually more likely to injure yourself if you try to wield it than anyone else.
Oh my God, I can imagine it now. Man in a basement wielding bat'leth. Slices open his belly and bleeds out.
Well, it's not sharp. I mean, it's pointy. Okay. You could take your eye out with it if you're trying to swing it around drunk as a skunk. But
Ed, put that down. You'll have your eye out with that, mate.
That's why it's on the wall and it stays on the wall. Right. So going back to our Cataclysm theories, we've now done the what's going on and the why is it going on.
Yeah.
I should say, and this hopefully might provide some comfort to people, is that I might seem very certain that all of this stuff is happening because I've spent a lot of time watching Ben Davidson, and he kind of drills it into your brain that this is going on.
Yeah.
But mainstream science would beg to differ. So is there evidence that we can see that it's happened in the past within human record? And actually there is, because almost every single human culture has a flood myth.
Yeah.
And that goes, I mean, we've got Noah, but Noah was the story of Noah was based on the legend of Utnapishtim, which is Akkadian.
Yep.
And it goes back as far as Sumerians, but the Mesoamericans have got Quetzalcoatl, which was a demon that came from the sea. And they have flood myths. And if you look at somewhere like Machu Picchu, for example, and some of these other Inca cities that were built high in the mountains, why the hell would you build I mean, nobody lives there now. It's like top of a mountain. Why would you build something like that? But it's actually, if the next cataclysm does happen, that's one of the good places to be. Same in Switzerland. I mean, the Swiss have got they've got bunker space in the mountains for pretty much everyone in Switzerland, and they have these bunker complexes that. And there's also, if you just do a Google search for elite doomsday bunkers, you'll realize that anyone that's got any money is building a doomsday bunker at the moment. And in some cases, like Jeff Bezos, he's practically bought a whole mountain. So yes, there's evidence going back. I mean, we can go through a few of I've got, there's also evidence, what I was saying about the accretion of the dust on the sun. Actually, what's going to happen is that the Earth is going to stop rotating because the outside and the inside become disconnected, and so one keeps spinning and the other bit doesn't, and goes the other way. But the sun's also going to go dark, and there's actually legends of the black sun, including in the Bible, Joshua. Is it chapter 10, verses 12 to 14, describes a day when the sun and the moon stood still, effectively extending daylight. This could be seen as a myth explaining an unusually long day. So
yeah, but I take it centrifugal force. Well, the kind of, not centrifugal, the kind of, what would you call it? The viscosity of the medium would eventually allow the planet to start rotating again as an entirety. Yeah.
Well, it's the energy basically passes through, and it has it has an effect which, in planetary terms, doesn't last very long at all. I mean, in human terms, it probably does. But in terms of the overall age of the planet,
Yeah.
it's a tiny little blip. But there's also the one of the
Yeah,
things
but
that this theory ties together
all that water's
is
gonna slush about like a cup in a, Force 9.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
Jesus. Yeah.
And I mean, in terms of surviving it, in Europe, one of the few places apart, well, there's Switzerland and the Pyrenees. You basically need to be at the top of a very big
A very
mountain.
big mountain, yeah.
And you have to assume that that mountain is going to become an island for a certain amount of time.
Oh.
And that there's not, and it literally the water will just scour
Yeah, well,
everything.
we're screwed. We're underwater. We don't have any
And
we don't have a big enough mountain. I mean, what
mhm,
Ben Nevis is only 4,000 feet. That's
yeah, I
nothing.
mean, yeah, I mean, certainly this part of Europe. Uh, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe as we get closer to the time, I might buy an old lifeboat or something, stick it on the roof. I don't know. Or I just it's like Charlie out of 2012. I mean,
Oh
sometimes you just
yeah.
have to let it go. But
Let it
there is also
go.
there's a lot of spiritual stuff going on because we've got things like the Indian yugas, and the yugas are different ages, and each age is 12,000 years, and we're in the Kali Yuga at the moment, and we're nearly at the end of it. It also corresponds with the Mayan calendar, which was 12,000 years, and although the Mayan calendar was supposed to have ended in 2012, I actually have a pet theory that 2012 wasn't when it ended, but that was where the strength of the planet's magnetic field starts to really drop
Well,
precipitously.
yeah. I know what you're saying, but the whole calendar thing's all screwed up anyway because with the Julian and Gregorian and all that, with everything changing, and we don't actually know what year this should
Mhm.
actually be. With
Sure.
any real certainty.
But it would also explain if you look at the number of it's one of the things that Graham Hancock covers in Ancient Apocalypse. It's the number of different human sites where we have built these massive structures to track the sun, literally, and
Yeah.
we venerate the sun as a god. There's
Yep.
something about the sun that our ancient ancestors were absolutely terrified of. And if you'd lived through a cataclysm where the sun suddenly goes dark and then everything just goes completely nuts, um, you would the survivors of that event would be absolutely obsessed with tracking the sun. And Göbekli Tepe supposedly has this. I mean, there's all sorts of controversy around that place because it throws mainstream archaeology completely out of whack. Because according to mainstream
Yeah.
archaeology, civilization happened 6,000 years ago,
Yeah. Well,
and
I
then
think.
suddenly they've got this thing from 12,000 years ago.
I, I mean, I might sound a bit controversial here, but mainstream archaeology is a crock of shit.
I agree. I completely agree. I mean, I'm sure the only stuff that mainstream archaeology has ever found is accidental stuff,
Yeah.
and in some cases, like Göbekli Tepe, they're totally not enthusiastic about doing any archaeology
Well, they're
there.
reburying it. They're reburying it
Exactly.
for later generations to discover.
Well, they've
It's
plant
not a fucking time capsule, Just dig the fucking thing up and find out what it was for. There might be some
unless
vital
they're
information there, unless they've already
well,
got that information.
well. This is the thing: is that I think that the powers that be know this is happening, and I think that a lot of what they're doing is to start with, they're stealing our money so that they can use that money to build their own doomsday bunkers and make sure they survive it.
Yeah,
But I think
right.
that
Hold, yeah, right. Let's be a bit sensible here, okay? What kind of shithole existence are you going to have if you survive this? Really think about it. I mean, I know I might sound a tad defeatist here, but what kind of shithole existence are you and the people that you're going to produce have, because it's not going to take decades to fix this. It's not going to take centuries. It's going to take thousands of years to fix this.
Well, yeah, it
Yeah,
would
it will.
take. I mean, if we look at the last cycle 12,000 years ago,
Yeah.
it also the thing that really bakes my noodle about this whole cataclysm rabbit hole is that it ties into lots of other things. Because what if, well, you can hypothesize. There's one of the things that's quite common in the myths and legends is that before that the flood is an act of God, and God is basically smiting the humans because the humans have gone crazy. Effectively, there's all sorts of like loose morals, and there's each of the different legends. We've got Hindu mythology, the biblical flood.
Keep
I
talking.
mean,
I'm gonna have to go and get another beer. Fuck this.
well, the biblical flood is described as punishment for the wickedness of humanity. Hindu mythology is not directly about punishment, but the flood in the Hindu tales often follows a period where human behavior might seem as needing correction or renewal. And that's one of the things to bear in mind about how the ancients describe what's potentially going to happen, is that it's a time of renewal. It's not about an ending, it's about a new beginning. And yeah, it's going to involve an ending, but nature is interesting, and there's humans survived the last cataclysm, and we're going to survive this one. And there's also potential for spiritual transition as well, which is that's where it gets a bit woo woo. But I
Are we
think,
talking Ascension?
well,
You
there's
watched
also
Stargate? Did you watch Stargate?
Mhm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're talking Ascension here, aren't we?
Well, yeah, kind of, and there are spiritual myths and legends
Yeah.
which describe things like that, and I've wondered to myself whether the weakening of the magnetic field has, because it's going to have an impact on us. I mean, this is why we have these underground cities in Cappadocia in Turkey,
Malta.
where and there's underground dwellings everywhere. It's another
Yeah.
of the things which reinforces that something happened in ancient times.
Yeah.
And the only thing that would make people really go underground is if something's coming from the sky.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, if you look at these cities, the underground, I can't remember what it's called, Derinkuyu in Turkey, and it goes down hundreds and hundreds of meters. I mean, it was like 12,000 people could live there. And what's his name? Josh Sigurdson at World Alternative Media has done a lot of this alternate stuff, and he's tracked tunnels that kind of seem to go off. There's theories that there are tunnels underground that connect Britain with Southern Europe, for example.
Yeah.
And they've found networks of these tunnels, some of them now underwater, but our ancestors went underground, and they went underground for a reason. And this whole notion is like, they say that Derinkuyu was built to escape Turkish invaders or something like that, or some sort of invaders.
Yeah.
Absolute bollocks. It's typical what you were saying about archaeology. It's the science, and whether it's virologists or archaeologists, I mean, most of them just spend most of their time talking out of their asses and justifying their pet theories with whatever evidence they can twist to support their crazy notions.
Yep. Indeed,
Um,
they do.
so if you just pop onto the next slide, this theory that everything's been underwater due to a cataclysmic flood. And yeah, slide 20. And this is, I mean, if you follow Open-Minded Approach and Ethical Skeptic on Twitter, those are both accounts that I suggest everyone follows who's interested in this stuff. And you can actually see water erosion on the Great Pyramids very, very clearly, which means that at some point that whole thing was underwater. And it's we've got evidence of tropical coral in Antarctica. And the only way you get tropical coral is if you're in a tropical zone, and the South Pole is not a tropical zone, which means that at some point Antarctica must have been somewhere else. And geologists would say, yeah, because it was all part of a big supercontinent at some point. So Antarctica probably was in the tropical region. But the tropical coral that they found isn't old enough.
There's a
There's
snag.
also, and I
Yeah.
mean, there's also evidence of seashells on the tops of. I mean, they found seashells in the Himalayas and marine fossils. But again, they're not always old enough to explain the continental uplift which created the Himalayas, which was millions of years ago. And so it doesn't track. But if you factor in this crustal shift that's happening potentially every 12,000 years, it starts to explain an awful lot. Now, if we look at the ancient legends, which talk about humanity losing its way and loose morals, and I mean, just look around you. I mean, it's but we are electromagnetic beings. Our brains are electromagnetic biological computers, and we are impacted by radiation from the sun. There's actually scientific research that's been done which posits a correlation between heart attacks and solar activity. Is that they can track an increase in the number of heart attacks people are having based on what the sun is doing. And if you imagine that our protection from that energy is getting all screwed up, the effect that that's having on humans may well explain all of the crazy gender stuff and people. I mean, you've probably seen the videos of on social media of crazy naked people jumping on cars and just like, what the hell is going on? What are you taking? Now, okay, some of those people obviously might be on drugs. And if there are drugs that make you want to strip naked and go running around outside like a crazy person, I strongly recommend avoiding them. Like strongly.
Don't do drugs.
But
don't do drugs, people.
Don't do drugs. Drugs are bad. Well, apart from when they're good. But no, drugs are bad. Don't do drugs. He says. But it kind of tracks. And if we're due for another one of these cataclysmic events, and we see so many of our fellow humans going crazy for no apparent reason. I mean, I know there's all the media propaganda and all of this nonsense, but we have some genuinely crazy shit going on at the moment. I mean, we've got 2 locations on the planet where World War III could start virtually at any moment. We have a whole bunch of crazy people who seem to actually be wanting to make that happen.
Yeah, we do.
Why? What could explain all of that? I mean, and if
collective
you think, okay,
insanity.
Well, yeah, but people don't just lose their minds. There must be a reason for it, and perhaps that. And I'm not saying this is, as with all of our shows, it's all speculation. You have to make your own mind up about everything. And definitely don't trust what I'm telling you. Go off and do your own research. But what could make an entire planet? What could impact an entire planet in that way, apart from some sort of massive change of some description, whether it's electromagnetic or it's the sun or a combination of the sun and the Earth's magnetic field? I mean, if the Earth's magnetic poles are jumping around and the whole field is kind of destabilized, maybe that explains why the people are all a bit destabilized. And I know it's all kind of quite dark.
maybe this guy, Rupert Sheldrake's got a thing about this morphic resonance stuff.
I haven't heard about morphic resonance.
Have you not? Have you
Mm.
not? Rupert Sheldrake. Have you ever looked into Rupert Sheldrake? Oh my God, right? This is the next rabbit hole. We're going down the Rupert Sheldrake, morphic resonance, and all that stuff. Oh, good grief, Ed!
Excellent.
That's fantastic. We've got the next rabbit hole locked in now.
I look forward to it. It sounds really interesting. And I know talking about the end of the world is, I guess, depressing. I mean, I'm personally, intellectually, I find it fascinating, and I focus on the intellectual side of it. I mean, apart in terms of fear, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, because even if you were to find the tallest mountain and you set yourself up with a nice little hippie commune and you had everything you think you needed, the universe might still throw a curveball and you end up dying. And you could have no preparations done at all. And for some inexplicable reason, you survive it.
You're spared. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, again, when you go back to the ancient myths, like Quetzalcoatl was supposedly human civilization starts with some super advanced being, whoever they are. They always seem to come from the water. I mean, that's what the Sumerian myths say. That's what the Mesoamerican myths say. And they introduce the native people to advanced civilizationary type things. And if you're a survivor it ties into ancient civilizations as well.
Yeah.
Because if there was a pre-flood ancient advanced Atlantean type civilization and certain people from that civilization survived and then went off to the first people you would go to, the people most likely to survive all of this nonsense are hunter-gatherers. The more primitive the
people most likely to survive this nonsense are those that are currently at sea on a nuclear-powered submarine.
That's a fair point. Apart from the fact that, I mean, they do. The thing with those is that they have power, water and air forever, but not food forever.
No, they don't have food forever, but that's why they have to come ashore and then impart their knowledge on the people that have survived.
Well, yes, that's possible. And I mean, it may well be because we've got the thing is that with the 6,000 year and 12,000 year cycles, I don't think that the planetary crust shift happens on the 6,000 year cycle.
Yeah.
I think that happens on the 12,000 year cycle. But I think the 12,000 year cycle, because of what we talked about with the AMOC and the Beaufort Gyre and all of that stuff, I think that potentially the 12,000 year cycle causes an ice age, which then lasts 6,000 years roughly.
Yeah.
And then you get another kick after 6,000 years, which causes a melting, which is what happened, which is the Noah event.
Yeah.
And here we are. And does this happen every 12,000 years? And if so, how many? It's not just maybe how many advanced civilizations of humans have there been? I mean, if we've achieved everything that we've achieved in 12,000 years, 6,000 years roughly, actually, then how many times has that happened? Because if we're talking about the 12,000 year event, the kind of tsunamis, I mean, we're talking we're talking 2012 level stuff.
Yeah.
And as far as the ice age goes, we're talking kind of day after tomorrow. So we're talking about a double whammy of 2 Hollywood movies.
Yeah.
And it's all scarily plausible.
Yes.
So, but yeah, as what's his name? Ben Davidson says at the end of every show, eyes open, no fear, be safe, everyone.
Yeah.
And actually, when I'm watching his videos, I have to skip past that bit because the guy has just told you, he spent 3 minutes telling you that you're a little bit closer to
death,
doom And yeah, be safe.
So, Rabbit Leader 3230 says, disagree, Ed, otherwise office would be destabilized. So that's obviously going back slightly on time. What were you talking about?
Hang on. Which? Well, no, not necessarily. Rabbit Leader. That's the thing, because if we go, John, just pop up the slide. It's one of the first. Yeah, slide 7. Because I don't think this thing affects everyone everywhere in the same way.
Ah, right, yeah.
And so I think, and also I think it's also down to the individual as well. I think some people potentially are more susceptible to it.
Yeah.
I think that the potentially geographically that the effects might be stronger in some places than others.
Yeah, well, if you look at the exact center, right, which would be the equator, then it's still kind of yellow on both maps.
It is, but if you look, I mean, if you look at the one on the left, which is the normal one, you've got a distinctive north and south.
Yeah.
And if you have the one on the right, you've got multiple south poles, multiple north poles, and everything's going a bit loopy. Which is kind of, I mean, the one on the right just seems like a perfect. That is just a metaphor for humans in 2024.
Yeah, it kind of is, mate. Yeah, we're all over the place. We don't have a fucking clue what we're doing, do we?
Absolutely, and
well, there's actually a point because Janet's mentioned the RSPB, but would bird migrations be affected?
Everything.
So
beachings of whales.
Our beachings of whales are occurring, as we know, but are bird migrations being affected right now? How would we find that
out? I know about migrations of whales.
Yeah.
I haven't. I mean, I'm not really an ornithologist, so yeah, I don't really do birds apart from seagulls, and I don't know, the gulls don't migrate, so I don't know if the gulls are impacted by.
Gulls are meant to be migratory seabirds, so.
Well, I'm not entirely sure that that's true, because gulls actually towards this, and this is something that I didn't even know about, but towards that, I know when the weather's going to turn cold, because the gulls start getting dark feathers on their faces. Normally during the summer, they're gleaming white, and then towards the end of the summer, they start to develop like grey patches.
Yeah.
And it almost makes them look. It makes them look a bit like fledglings. And so by now they've actually got quite a lot of sort of grey feathers under the white, and I think that that's Mother Nature's way of keeping them warm through the winter. That's my pet theory.
Downy feathers, is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, when it happened last year, I posted it on Twitter trying to get some useful information from anyone who knew more about birds than I did. And someone said, "Oh no, they're just little hatchlings." I was like, "No, you dickhead! They're like, no,
they've been here all fucking year. They had their own hatchlings."
I blocked him, dickhead. But yeah, so I'm not sure about birds.
Hold on a minute. I've got to pull this up, right? So it's fucking 10:30, Bex. It's 10:30. You can't come in at 10:30 and say, "Hi everyone, I'm late." 10:30, Bex. You're having a fucking giraffe, aren't you?
She's a busy mum with 2 kids. Leave her alone.
Yeah. How do you know people's personal lives? I never get close enough to people to ask. Well, maybe it's because I don't ask.
Well, I don't know everyone in chat, but Bex is a friend. Well,
yeah.
Twitter
okay.
Friend.
Right. Okay.
Twitter pal.
Yeah, but that's what I mean about Emma's here. Fear fucking hell, Emma's late as well. What the hell are you doing coming in at 10:30? But anyway, right. So this is like, I know these people on Twitter or from the chat, but I wouldn't even dream of asking them things. Is that me? Am I wrong? Am I a kind of antisocial cunt?
Well, well, no, because you and I have become friends on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because it was you guys that messaged me asking me to do that initial interview, which started all the rabbit holes.
Yeah.
So it does happen.
It does, I
But
suppose, yeah.
and the whole point with this, it's I think this applies to all of the bad stuff that's happening in the world right now, is that there's a great Buddhist saying that you can't control what happens, you can control how you react to it.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm fascinated by the stories of like maybe it becomes easier to achieve spiritual enlightenment as the magnetic field of the planet gets weaker. Who knows?
Well,
Maybe it
that's
has
quite
something.
interesting, isn't it?
Well, it's just one of the pet theories that I've been playing around with.
Well, maybe the
Because
magnetic field is a kind of dampening effect on our ability to reach out and to communicate with the rest of the universe.
Well, here's another crazy theory for you. That we talk about consciousness as some sort of non-local phenomena. What if the sun is the unified consciousness? What if it's the sun that's the source of consciousness? Just as a wild theory. Again, you can feel free to shoot holes in it. I've had
I can't
I've probably had quite a lot of wine by now. So.
Yeah, I can't formulate an opinion on that. I haven't really thought about it, so
Well,
I would need to give
take
that
the
some
theory
thought.
away, and we can revisit it. And I'm if anyone has any ideas, you can stick them in the chat or put them on Twitter. But I'm absolutely fascinated by the overall electrical makeup. I mean, what you've talked about before, the electric universe.
Yeah.
But if we start off with electric planet and electric solar system, then the impact, it means that we're electrically connected. Sorry, to
You will be if you don't stop slurring your words, mate. I'll be connecting your balls to the fucking battery charger.
Oh, Duracell bunny, yeah. But I mean, I don't know what other people think about it, but I find it absolutely fascinating the impact of because the magnetic field, the fact that it's getting weaker, is not a conspiracy theory. That's something that
it's a fact.
Science is,
yeah.
And I still want to know why they've stopped reporting the position of the poles and how. Much
because it's
moving.
In Russia, sanctioned.
Well, because in theory, according to Davidson, the north and south magnetic poles are going to meet somewhere in the Java Sea.
Yeah. So the last time I saw the North Pole, not that I saw the North Pole, but the last time I saw the position of the North Pole, it was somewhere in Siberia.
And the South Pole is actually moving faster.
All right. Is that sped up?
But we don't know. I think we've only got data from 5 or 6 years ago. I think it was 5 or 6 years. Don't quote me on that.
Nothing newer than that. That's shocking.
Yeah, and they've also stopped reporting about the size and spread of the South Atlantic anomaly.
Yeah,
which leads me to believe that the powers that be know about this and that there's people preparing. And here's another scary thought about the world that comes after this one, assuming that this cataclysm does happen and we have this greatest of resets. I mean, Klaus Schwab's going to be really happy sitting on his fucking mountain in Switzerland going, oh, yes, this is a great reset I was talking about. Dickhead. Anyway, but can you imagine, because we've got Jeff Bezos preparing himself in his mountain. Elon Musk is probably going to be on Mars by that point. He's talking through, what is it, 2 years or 3 years or something? He's got quite a short time scale for his whole Mars trip.
There's no fucking chance, mate. No chance.
But yeah, because all of this shit's going to hit Mars as well. Yeah, FYI.
But he's no chance of meeting those timescales. None. No. I mean, they've already started putting kibosh on him anyway.
I was going to say, NASA, they've already put loads of red tape in front of him. And it's all just because they don't like Elon Musk at the moment. The whole thing is just, it's all theatre. It's
Of course it
cinema.
is.
But what we're talking about is potentially a future world led by the likes of Jeff Bezos. Oh my days. Please. Come Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg are gonna I mean what Jeff Bezos is gonna be the next world's Quetzalcoatl. Come
Oh,
on.
good God. Yeah.
He's gonna turn up in his super yacht. I mean, they talk about because the ancient particularly the Latin the I think it's Aztecs. I think is it Quetzalcoatl Aztec? I'm not sure. I don't know a huge amount about it. But he's a
It
winged
could be.
serpent that comes
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and he comes from the sea. They don't say anything about super yachts. Can you imagine Mark like the world's just ended and Mark Zuckerberg has survived on his like climate change destroying freaking
Yeah.
3 diesel engine powered yacht and he rocks up to some surviving tribe of Amazonian native people and starts trying to teach them about civilization. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I want
I
to
can, I
survive in
can,
that
I
world.
can imagine Jeff Bezos rocking up, meeting someone who's just fucking recovered from the event, and he goes, "I'd like to sell you a book."
But the thing
Get
is that all of
Amazon
these
up and running straight away.
yeah, but it's like all of these disaster movies.
Did you ever watch Zardos?
No.
Oh, fucking movie
That
from the 70s. Sean
I like
Connery.
70s.
Sean
Oh,
Connery.
I like a good 70s Connery movie. He was so cheesy.
Sean Connery, Charlotte Rampling.
Is it
Zardos.
Zardos?
DOZ.
DOZ. Got it.
Zardos.
I'll find that.
Yeah, you got to watch
Excellent.
that.
Oh, that looks cheesy as fuck.
Oh,
So
it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's got a sting in the tail. Anyway, this is something I want to address from the chat. Janet says she gets affected by these geomagnetic storms, right? And quite a lot of people do, but don't realise it. So how would one know if one was being affected, Janet? That's something for you to come back to us on, either tonight or whatever.
What would be really interesting is if you feel you're being affected by it or you have weird mood swings, is to watch Ben Davidson's. He does a daily video on suspicious observers, and they're 3 or 4 minutes, and he'll tell you exactly what's going on. You can also look at spaceweathernews.com, and that'll show you the more sciencey side of things if that's what you want. I mean, the easiest way to do it is just to watch Ben's daily video. Follow him on Twitter. And I have personally noticed that when we get increased solar activity, now obviously it could be psychosomatic because I'm expecting it.
Yeah, see, that's the problem.
But I noticed the other night when we had the hit from that last solar flare that I had these weird, it was Tuesday night, I had these weird heart palpitations lying in bed after Kung Fu. Just couldn't explain it. And had to sit down and actually do some meditation and some focused breathing and kind of get things calm and under control. Because if you start to panic in that situation, you just make it worse. And it took 5 or 10 minutes. And eventually, if you understand that it's, oh, this is a bit weird, what's going on? I just need to calm things down a bit and take a step back. But I think these things do affect us. And like I said, there's hard science linking heart attacks with solar activity.
Yeah, there is.
And so if it can cause a heart attack, then it can do any other electromagnetic type thing in your brain.
Your heart runs. It's an electrical system.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just like a central heating pump to a degree, isn't it?
Well, I've seen some interesting stuff.
Are you talking about the vortex thing?
Yeah, that it's got a pump, that it's an electrical vortex when they kind of open it up and actually look at it.
Yeah.
Absolutely fascinating stuff. But we are all impacted by this stuff. And I do find the link between, it's just when you actually go back and look at some of these particularly the ancient flood myth from the Bible, where the humans was like God had to smite them because they were just, and then you've got things like Sodom and Gomorrah, where actually there are some parallels between that story and a nuclear detonation.
Yeah, there is.
Because of the whole pillar of salt thing.
Although not looking back wouldn't have saved you.
Well, no. But if the past ancient civilization went as crazy as this one and had access to similar or higher technology, and we look at the way that the world is going at the moment, we could easily, I mean, we've probably got to worry about World War III and nuclear Armageddon a little bit more than we do about pole shifts right now.
True. That's true. And, with that happy thought, I think it's maybe time to call an evening, Topher.
Yeah, we've been going for ages, but for the ones that were late, you can go back and watch it again.
Yeah.
Or you can also tune into the mega stream that John's done, and we can put you to sleep. And if you do, let us time it and let us know how long it took.
Yeah, how long before you fell asleep?
But yeah, I know it's been really sciencey and kind of hardcore, and I think we just want to leave people with a positive note because there's always hope.
There is.
Things are never as bad as we think they're going to be.
Until they are.
Until they are, or they're worse.
No, yeah, but I think, we've just got to keep soldering on, and to that event, we will be back tomorrow at 9 o'clock.
Definitely.
For All In, where we'll have a bit of a laugh for a change.
No, we'll be in a good mood.
Yeah,
well, I'm in a good mood now, but it'll be the subject matter will be less serious.
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow night's is more light-hearted, and we won't be digging into rabbit holes. But to be fair, I really enjoy the rabbit holes. I think the rabbit holes are brilliant. I enjoy doing them.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you guys enjoy watching them.
Yeah, no, I mean we have an active chat room, so there's a few people out there that are enjoying it.
Oh yeah, they've stayed with us all throughout it, which is which shows a remarkable amount of tenacity. Well done.
And dedication. Yes, thank you guys. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Right, and as always, it's been great for you.
Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah.